Election Day and the Lubbock municipal elections right around the corner on Saturday. My final thoughts in the video ahead. Hey everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO. Oh yeah, this box behind me right here, brand new firearm that I purchased from SS Outfitters, Highway 114 in Levelland. Remember, when you're wanting to purchase a firearm and you're here in West Texas, you need to head out to see Sky Strationer at SS Outfitters, Highway 114 in Levelland. Thank him for taking care of us as always, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that next week. All right, so we've got the municipal elections coming up here in the state of Texas on Saturday. Here in Lubbock as well, of course. We've got quite a few things, quite a few interesting plots going on here in Lubbock. Of course, one of the big races out there is, or one of the big things on the ballot is school board. And I've actually had a lot of people who have reached out to me asking, Chad, who do you endorse? Who do you like in the races? I never endorse candidates. I really don't. I don't endorse candidates for a number of reasons, and the race for LISD and other school board positions is no different. I'm not going to endorse anyone in those elections. You, the people, are going to make up your minds on that one. Plus, let's be honest, we haven't heard from many of these candidates running for school board in Lubbock and in other cities around Lubbock. They haven't wanted to come on the show. In fact, I've only had two candidates who have reached out to me running for school board. That would be Jonathan Meyer for Roosevelt ISD and Art Martin and Lubbock ISD. Only two candidates out of everybody running for school board or in and around Lubbock have reached out to be on KFYO, the most powerful talk station in West Texas, the most listened to talk show and talk station in West Texas. Only two people have respected you, the voters, enough to come on my radio show and any other radio show to explain their positions and to explain why they want to be elected to school board. So, I don't know. Maybe you take that into account when you go and vote. Who has respect for you, the voters? Who wants to be held accountable by you, the voters? Only two candidates appeared on my show, and I think the same for the rest of the shows on KFYO. Art Martin for Lubbock ISD School Board. Again, I'm not endorsing anyone here. I'm just telling you who appeared on our shows or on my show to tell you about their campaign and respected you enough to do so. Art Martin in Lubbock ISD and Jonathan Meyer in Roosevelt ISD. Jonathan Meyer, Roosevelt ISD, he came on earlier to talk about his campaign and his vision for what he wanted to do for Roosevelt and how he wanted to give back. Art Martin, same thing. Came on my show, talked about how he wanted to give back to Lubbock ISD and how he wanted to improve the school board. I appreciate both of those gentlemen for appearing on my radio show and on KFYO, and more importantly, I appreciate both of them for speaking to you, the audience, when no one else wanted to. Now, I guess I should be completely honest here. Amanda Banks, candidate for Lubbock ISD, she was supposed to appear on my show earlier in the week, but she was a little detained. I guess you got to get a little caught up. She was the one who was booked into the Lubbock County Detention Center on Tuesday, then released. She's been accused, not convicted, accused of, I think, multiple counts of insurance fraud. Also, this kind of, her case dovetails into possibly making a false police report of a break-in into her home where she claimed that the suspects had stolen jewelry and stolen not furniture or electronics, but clothing items, like women's clothing, that they stole out of there. Then not only did they steal women's clothing and jewelry, but they also left racial epithets throughout her home, except on the walls. They didn't bother with the walls, but they would etch into furniture White Lives Matter and other racial derogatory terms. The Lubbock police and the investigators didn't seem to buy that story, so she's going to have to prove herself when she has a court date at some point. But by the way, this is a good example of why you don't need to always vote early, okay? She was booked into Lubbock County Detention Center this past Tuesday. Listen, early voting happened for a week beforehand, and she possibly received quite a few votes that she may not have gotten, after she was put in the handcuffs, taken to the Lubbock County Detention Center. So that's why I always kind of just hold off and wait and not, vote 2 weeks early like some folks do. I just, unless you're going to be out of town or extremely busy on election day, just wait till election day and see what happens. Again, a lot of people in Lubbock, they haven't voted yet. Only 10,000 or so people have voted in the election, in early voting. So there's a lot of people who have either not made up their mind or to simply just don't give a damn. Now, also on your ballot here in Lubbock, a couple of seats on the Lubbock City Council. You've got one Chidus who did not appear on my radio show at any point, did not reach out. He's running against Pat Kelly, who appeared on my radio show twice in that race. Again, I'm not endorsing anyone in that race, but I do appreciate Pat Kelly for joining me on the program. Also, Randy Christian running unopposed for Lubbock City Council in District 5. He's not facing anyone, and he's appeared on the show as well. And, of course, Mayor Dan Pope up for re-election. He's facing a write-in candidate and some other person who didn't appear on the show. Mayor Dan Pope should cruise on to victory for the Lubbock City Council. I would give some advice to the mayor. I know you weren't opposed in this, but there are a lot of angry people in Lubbock. There are a lot of people who are angry with the Lubbock City Council. You should know this. And I think you, along with other members of the Lubbock City Council, need to do a really bang-up job moving forward, reaching out to the citizens. I would encourage you guys on the Lubbock City Council. Dan Pope, I think, does an okay job with the mayors, with the coffee with the mayor. But you need to do some evening town halls, Mr. Mayor. You need to reach out to people a little bit more, hear their frustration, talk to people, see where that leads you. I'll talk more about that after the election. One of maybe the biggest issue on the Lubbock County or City of Lubbock ballot this go around, whether or not citizens should abandon the Coliseum and Auditorium and hand that land in those buildings over to Texas Tech. I've talked extensively, exhaustively, maybe, about this issue. I still believe the best case scenario is to abandon those buildings and that land, hand it back over to Texas Tech so they can do whatever they want to do with it. They have already said they'll pay for the cost of demolition. The city of Lubbock has talked about, or at least one member of the Lubbock City Council has floated the idea about a possible venue tax going into the future to build a new dirt floor arena, a public-private partnership. That would mainly impact only those who stay in hotels throughout the city of Lubbock and maybe Lubbock County. That would not impact you, the everyday tax-paying citizen. If you vote to keep the Coliseum and Auditorium, it's possible the Lubbock City Council will come back to you and ask you for a bond election, but that means higher taxes. Is that something that you want? Is that something you really need to deal with when the city is in a ton of debt already? Again, this to me is a referendum on the Lubbock City Council. I believe that there's a good chance that it will fail because it has become a referendum on the City Council. City Council simply has not done a good enough job of selling it to the citizens, telling the story why we need to abandon the venue, and they haven't done a good enough job of separating themselves from this issue. Now, how can they do all three of those things? I really don't know. But the city council and this decision is really being looked at by many as a screw you to the Lubbock City Council because of this council's decisions and past council's decisions when it comes to the Coliseum Auditorium and deferred maintenance, when it comes to the Omni building / Citizens Tower / the People's Tower, the People's Square, and when it comes to the police station and not allowing people to go and vote on that issue. And also it comes down to people are sick and tired of bailing out the city whenever the city has a lot of deferred maintenance and they don't take care of taxpayer-owned buildings. I get all sides of the argument. I really do. I understand it. I don't believe the city of Lubbock needs to be in the entertainment business. I don't believe they should be in the Coliseum and Auditorium business, and that's why I'm voting to hand that land back over, or those buildings over, to Texas Tech University. No matter how you vote, get out and vote. Let your voices be heard. Of course, wide open telephones on Friday. where we take your phone calls. Matt Crow will join me. Maybe a visit from the chairman, Steve Evans. Who knows? Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time. News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 a.m. KFYO. Don't forget KFYO Election Night coverage. It'll happen Saturday from 7 p.m. until maybe 10 p.m. We'll see. We may end a little bit before if the numbers come out and we have some winners and a decision on the Auditorium Coliseum. But join us. You can listen via the KFYO app, online at KFYO.com, and of course, 95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And don't forget, get out and vote.